Hello everyone, I hope you're doing good and staying safe. Welcome to another video tutorial on IPL data analysis using Python by SimpliCode. As you guys know that IPL is a cricket league played by different franchises across the nation over a period of 2 months. So in this tutorial, we'll go through some of the performances and statistics of different IPL teams and players in the last season, that is 2021. We'll export different data sets and try to derive meaningful insights from it. We'll also create beautiful data visualizations like graphs and plots using these data sets. But before we begin, if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to our channel SimpliCode to stay updated with all the latest tech content. And hit that bell icon to never miss an update from as well. Without any further delay, let's get started.
So in this video, we'll be using two datasets to perform our analysis. Now let me show you the CSV files. So this is my IPL dataset folder which is on my desktop, and these are the two files that we are going to use. The first dataset has information about matches played between 2008 and 2020. Let me open this dataset. Alright, you can see here there are total, let me just go to the top and I'll show you the number of rows we have. We have around 817 rows of information. Alright, you can see this is the match ID. So these are all unique IDs of the matches held between 2008 and 2020. Then we have the city in which the match was held. We have the date on which the match was played. We have the player of the match, which is man of the match basically. Then we have the venue column, that is the name of the stadium where the match was conducted. We have a column called neutral venue, whether the venue is neutral or not. Then we have the teams, team 1 and team 2. We have information about who won the toss. Then after winning the toss, whether they decided to field first or bat first. Then we have the winner who won the match. We have the results, whether it was won by runs or by wickets. Then we have the margin. So these big numbers are basically runs, 140, 33, all these are runs. If you see here, one of the match was a very close contest where the winning team won by just 6 runs. We have information about whether the match was an eliminator or a league match. We have a method, whether there was any DL method applied for deciding the result. And we have information about the 2 umpires. These are basically field umpires. Next, coming to the second data set. Now in the second data set, let me open it. Alright, so this dataset has all the information for each ball bowled since 2008 till 2020. You see you have the match ID, then we have the information about innings, whether it was a first inning or a second innings. We have which over it was, then we have which ball it was, basically the number of ball in an over. Then we have the batsman who faced the delivery. Then we have the batsman who was at the non-striker end, or the player who was at the non-striker end. Then we have information about who the bowler was and how many runs were scored of that ball, whether there were any extra runs, and the total runs that were scored in each ball. We have whether it was a boundary or a non-boundary. Then we have whether there was a wicket taken in that delivery. Now we have information about player dismissed. Let me apply a filter and show you the values that we have. You can see here these are the players who have been dismissed. Now similarly, let's see for extra types. You have byes, leg byes, no balls, penalty, wide deliveries. Then we have the batting team and the bowling team. Alright. So we will be using these two data sets to perform exploratory data analysis and answer particular questions like the total number of matches played in each season, the total number of runs scored in each season. We'll also look at the number of tosses won by each team, the toss decision for each season. Then we'll see whether the team opted to bat or to field first after winning the toss. We'll also understand how a certain player has performed so far in IPL, the player who has scored the most number of runs and who has won the most number of man of the match awards. Alright, so let me take you to my Jupyter notebook. So this is the Jupyter notebook we'll be using for our demo. I have already written a few lines of code. You can see it here. Alright, so let's begin with the first step, which is to import the necessary libraries. So to perform our data analysis on the IPL dataset, I would need the NumPy library for numerical computation. We'll also need pandas library, so I've imported it as PD and NumPy as NP. Then we have two visualization libraries, matplotlib and seaborn. The next step is to load the dataset. So here I am loading two of my datasets, which is match_data and the balls dataset. So to load the dataset, I'm using pandas library and the read_csv function, and within this parenthesis I'll pass in my file location followed by the file name and the extension of the file. So here I have my dataset. Now let me copy this location and I'll paste the location here. We'll convert all the backslash to /, and finally I'll give my dataset file name. Let me just copy it and I'll paste it there. Okay, followed by the file name extension, which is .csv. Now I will just copy this, and similarly I'll paste for my second dataset. We'll replace the file name. I'll copy this file name and I'll paste it here. Okay, now let me go ahead and first run the first cell to import all the necessary libraries. You can see we have successfully imported all the libraries. Then let's run the second cell, which is to load the datasets. So the first dataset, which is IPL matches, I'm storing in a variable called match_data. This will be stored in the form of a data frame. And the second dataset, which is IPL ball by ball, I'm storing in a variable called ball_data. Let's run it. Okay, there is some error. Alright, we need to put these within double quotes. Don't forget to put the location on within double quotes, otherwise it will throw an error. Now let's run it again. There you go. So I have successfully imported my datasets. Now let's print the top 5 rows from both the data frames. Now to print the top 5 rows, I'll use the head function. First I'll write match_data, which is my variable name for the first data frame, followed by the head function. If I run this, you can see I have the top 5 rows from my matches dataset. You see here we have the ID, the city, date, player of the match. If I scroll to the right, you can see winner, result, result margin, eliminator, method, and the 2 umpires. Similarly, let's see the top 5 rows from the ball dataset. So I'll write ball_data, which is my variable name, followed by the head function. Let's run it using Shift Enter. There you go. So we have the top 5 rows from the ball by ball dataset as well. Next, let's check if there are any null values in both the datasets. Now to check for null values, you can use the isNull function, and to find the total number of null values, you can use the sum function. So I'll write match_data dot. I'll use the isNull function to see if there are any null values, and to find the sum, I'll use the sum function. There you go. If I scroll down, you see here there are 13 null values or missing values in the city column. Then you have 4 null values in the player of the match column. Method, you have 797 null values. Similarly, you have some null values for eliminator and result margin as well. Let me just copy this. Now we will check for null values present in our ball dataset. I'll replace this by ball. Let's run it. There you go. If I scroll down, here you can see for dismissal_kind, then you have player_dismissed, fielder, extra types. These all have a lot of null values. Okay. Now you can print the shape of the data frame and also all the columns present in it. For that, I'll use the shape method. I'll write match underscore data dot shape. You see here in our match dataset we have 816 rows of information and 17 columns. Similarly, if you want, you can check for the ball dataset. There you go. So the first value represents the number of rows, and then we have the number of columns. Now if you want to print all the columns present in a dataset, you can use the columns attribute. You can see it here in the result. We have all the columns printed that are present in the match dataset. Now let's look at the total number of matches played so far, the cities where the matches have been played, and the team which have participated. So for this I will be using 3 print statement. So I'll write print match played so far. I'll give a colon, and then with a comma I'll write my variable name, which is match underscore data, and I'll give shape as 0. Let's print this. You can see matches played so far is 816. I'll write another print statement. This is to check the cities in which the matches have been played, and I'll only print the unique cities. So I'll give a \n. I'll write cities played at. Let's give a colon now, and I'll use my variable, which is match underscore data, and within square brackets I'll give my column name, that is city, so that it will extract only the city values, and I'll give my function as unique since I want to know only the unique cities in which the matches have been played. If I run this, there you go. So these are the cities in which the matches have been played from 2008 till 2020. You have Bangalore, Chandigarh, Delhi, you have Durban, Port Elizabeth, you have Centurion, there's Ahmedabad, Cuttack, Nagpur, Kochi, Kanpur, Bangalore, Dubai, and other cities as well. Okay, now we'll print one more result, that is the total number of teams that have participated so far. So I'll write print within single quotes. I'll give \n so that there's a space. I'll write teams participated, give a colon, and then I'll give a comma. I'll pass in my variable name, which is match underscore data. Then within square brackets I'll give team 1, and again I'll use the unique function. If I run this, in the result you can see these are the teams that have participated so far. You have RCB, the Kings 11 Punjab, Delhi Daredevils. Last year there was Delhi Capitals. You have the Rising Pune Super Giants, Chennai Super Kings, Kochi Tuskers, Deccan Chargers, and other teams as well. Alright, now we will add a new column to our table that will have the year value extracted from the date column of the matches data frame. Now if I go to the top, I'll show you what I want to do. So in this matches data frame, you have a column called date, which has all the date values in which the matches were played. From this date value, I want to extract only the year. So let me show you how to do it. Now to extract the year value from the date column, I'll use a function which is datetime_index. Now let me show you how to use it. I'll write my variable name, which is match underscore data, and I'll create a new column called season. Now this season column will have only the year values. I'll give pd dot, and I'll use my function datetime_index, and within this function I'll pass in my variable, which is match underscore data, and within square brackets, I'll give my date column. I'll come out and I'll give my attribute which is year. Now in the next line, let me print the head of the data frame now. I'll write match underscore data dot head. If I run this, scroll down a bit and I'll go to the right, you see the last column we have added a new column called season, which has only the year values. Now we will use this column, which is the season column, to perform multiple operations. Okay. Now let's look at the total number of matches that have been played or held each season from 2008 to 2020. So I'll give my variable name, which is match per season, equal to, I'll write match underscore data dot, here I'm going to use group by function, which is present inside my pandas data frame. So I'm going to group all the season values. So basically I'm going to group all the year values so that I can know how many matches have been played each season. Now I'm going to count all the match IDs for each season. So I'll pass in my ID column dot and I'll use my count function. Then I'll reset my index using the reset underscore index function, and then I'll rename my column. So I'll write rename, within brackets I'll give columns equal to, I'll pass in a dictionary. So I want to convert the ID column to matches. Alright, let me just see it again if everything is fine, and I'm going to print my new variable that I have created, which is matches per season. Let's run this. Some error has occurred. Let me check. It says match per season not defined. There's a small typo here. I have missed a S. So I'll run this again. There you go. You can see in the result we have all the seasons starting from 2008 till 2020, and here we have all the matches that were played in each season. So you can see here in season 2013 there were the highest number of matches that were played, which was 76. Then in 2012 there were 74 matches. Similarly in 2011 we have 73, and if you see this result, in 2008 less number of matches were played overall, which was 58. Oh no, it's actually 2009 where 57 matches were played. Okay. Now we will visualize the above result by creating a bar graph that will show the number of matches held each year. So I am going to make use of this table, and using this table we'll create a bar graph. Now to create a bar graph, I'll use my Seaborn library, which I had imported as SNS. I'll write sns.countPlot, which is to count the number of matches. So I'll pass in my data frame, which is match underscore data, and I'll give my variable as season, or the column name as season. Next, we'll use our matplotlib library. I'll write plt.xticks, which is an attribute to edit our X labels. I'll give the parameters rotation equal to 45, and I'll give my font size as, let's say, 10. Similarly, I'll use plt.yticks and I'll give my font size as 10. Now I'll edit my X labels. I'll write plt.xLabel. In the X label, we'll have the season values. I'll give my font size as 10. Then let me just copy this. We'll have our plt.y label, and our y axis would have the count. Font size, let it be 10. Then we'll give the title to our bar graph. So I'll write plt.title, and within single quotes I'll give a title to my plot, which is total matches played in each season. We'll also give a font size of, let's say, 10 again, and I'll use font weight as bold. Alright, let me now run this and show you how our graph looks like. There you go. So we have a nice bar graph. On the top you can see the title of the graph, which says total matches played in each season. On the y-axis we have the label as count. On the x-axis we have the label as season. And now let me show you what I meant by x ticks and y ticks. So I had rotated my x values by 45. So you can see the year values have been tilted and printed with 45 degrees. And then I had set my font size to be 10. So this is font size 10, and similarly count also we have font size 10. Now let's say if I want to rotate this by 90 and I print it, you see here the year values are now rotated in 90 degrees. Now what happens if I just remove this parameter and we'll only have font size? If I print it, you see this has been printed in horizontal order like we have it in the count column. I'll just paste it here again. Okay, now let's run it. So I have my year values. Okay, we'll move ahead and perform some more analysis. So in my current cell, which you see here, I'm merging two columns from the matches data frame to balls data frame using a left join. So here I'm adding the ID column and the season column present in my match underscore data frame with the ball data frame, and I'm using a left join, and I'm joining using the common column, which is ID, which is present in both the tables or both the data frames, and then I'm dropping my ID column. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, you see here I've added my season column to my ball underscore data frame. Now we'll use this data frame now to perform some analysis. Now in the current cell which I have selected, let's visualize the total runs scored in each season. So what I have done is I have grouped my season values and applied a sum function to the total runs column, and then I have reset my index, and I'm plotting a line graph. You see here I've used sns.line plot, which means I'm plotting a line graph to see the trend of runs scored each season. I have set my face color as black. We have a title called total runs in each season. I've given a font size, a font weight. Now before I run this cell, let me change my face color from black to gray so that my plot is clearly visible. Again, this palette you can choose whatever you want. Let me show you how you can select the Seaborn palette. If I search for SNS palette, there's a nice blog or an article from Seaborn, and here you can see we have all the palettes here. Whichever you want you can choose. There is hustle, we have set to, paired. There are so many. You can use whatever you like. Now let me go back. Let's run this cell. There you go. So here we have a nice line graph. Now if you see this line graph, in year 2009, least number of scores or minimum number of runs were scored compared to other seasons. we had the highest number of runs scored in 2013, which responds to this. So more than 22,000 runs were scored in 2013. Similarly, we had a drop in 2014, which was around 19,000 or less than 19,000 runs were scored in 2014. And if you see for 2020, which was last season, more than 19,000 runs or nearly 19,500 runs were scored in 2020. Okay, now moving ahead, let's see our next operation that we want to perform. I'll scroll down. Now I want to find the runs scored per match in each season. To do this, I'm concatenating the match per season data frame with the second column season data frame. So I am dividing the total runs scored each season. You can see it here. So I have divided the total runs by the matches played per season. Now I have set my index to season and I am printing runs per season. The result I am storing it in a variable which is runs scored per match. Let's just run this. There you go. If I scroll down, you see we have the seasons, the different seasons from 2008 till 2020, and you have the total matches that were played in each season. You have the total number of runs that were scored in each season, and then we have our last column which is runs scored per match. So here you have the total number of runs or the average runs scored in each match. Okay. Now we'll look at the number of tosses won by each team. For this, I'm finding the count of toss winners and then I'm creating a horizontal bar graph. So I'm using the value underscore counts function and I'm counting the toss winners for each of the teams. And here I have used my face color as gray, and then you can see I have set my title to number of tosses won each season. My X label is number of tosses won. On the Y label I have the teams. Let's just run this. Okay, if you see here on the Y axis I have the different teams, and on the X axis I have the number of tosses won by each team. You see Mumbai Indians so far have won the highest number of tosses, followed by Kolkata Knight Riders, then we have Chennai Super Kings, then we have Royal Challengers Bangalore, and if you see at the bottom we have Kochi Tuskers and Rising Pune Super Giants. Alright, the next cell of code will help us analyze the toss decision across different seasons. So if you want to find out whether the teams decided to bat or bowl first, I'm using a count plot or a frequency plot. Let me just run this and show you the results. So this is how the distribution looks like of the toss decisions across seasons. The purple color represents field and the red or the orange color represents batting, which means after winning the toss the team decided to bat first, and the purple color represents after winning the toss the team decided to bowl first. Now let me explain you what this graph tells us. In most of the seasons, the team that won the toss decided to field first. Only in certain cases, for example in 2009, the toss winning team decided to bat first. Similarly, if you see for season 2013, most of the teams preferred to bat first. And do we have anything else? No. If you see the other season, even in 2010, if you see, most of the teams preferred to bat first after winning the toss, but the rest of the seasons, be it 2008 or be it 2011, be it 2016, 17, 18, 19 and even 2020, most of the teams preferred to field first after winning the toss. Okay. Now we will look at the match results to analyze how many matches have been won in terms of wickets, meaning that the chasing team won the match. We will see how many matches have been won by runs, meaning that the team batting second could not chase the target. We will understand how many matches have been a tie so far. Now to get that result, I'll just write one line of code. I'll give my data frame name, which is match underscore data, and I'll use my result column, and then I am going to use my value underscore counts function. If I run this, okay, there is some error here. This should be value underscore counts and not count. There you go. If you see, most number of matches have been won by wickets, which means the team batting second won the highest number of matches, and there are less number of matches that have been won by runs, which means the team bowling second won the match. And then we had 13 ties so far from 2008 to 2020. Alright, now let's address some more questions. For example, if you want to know which stadium is best for winning by wickets, so I'll write match underscore data dot, I'll use the venue column which is present in my match underscore data frame, and then I'm going to use my condition as result not equal to runs, and then I'll use the mod function. If I run this, you see here Eden Gardens is the best stadium for winning by wickets. So you have higher chances if you bat second at Eden Gardens, you'll win the match. Now see, you want to know which stadium is best for winning by runs. To do that, I'll just copy my above line of code, and instead of not equal to runs, I'll write not equal to wickets. If I run this, it says Firozshah Kotla. So Firozshah Kotla is the best stadium for winning the match by runs. So you have higher chances if you choose to bat first. Alright, now we want to know for any given IPL team which stadium is best when they win the toss. So to answer that question, I'll use my data frame, which is match underscore data. Again, I'm going to use my column, that is venue, and then I'll write match underscore data dot toss underscore winner. Let's say I'll write equal to my team I'll select is, let's say, Kings 11 Punjab, and then I'm going to use another square brackets and give match underscore data dot winner equal to I'll write again Kings 11 Punjab. Let me copy this, I'll paste it here, and then I'm going to use the mod function. If I run this, you see here the result is Punjab Cricket Association Stadium, Mohali, which is the home ground for Kings 11 Punjab. So for any given IPL team, if you want to know which stadium is best when they win the toss, most of the times you will find it is going to be their home stadium or the home ground. Now let's verify this with another team. Let's say I want to know in which stadium Mumbai Indians have won the maximum number of matches. So I'll choose my team as Mumbai Indians this time, and let's see which stadium it returns. If I run this, there you go. It says Wankhede Stadium, which is again the home ground for Mumbai Indians. Let's see for one more. Now I want for Kolkata Knight Riders. I'll copy this and I'll paste it here as well. If I run this, again it says Eden Gardens, which is the home ground for Kolkata Knight Riders. Okay. The next question I want to answer is, which is the best chasing team that is the team that has won the maximum number of matches batting second. So for that, I'll write match underscore data dot, I'll use my winner column, and within square brackets I'll write match underscore data dot result not equal to runs, and then I want to use the mod function. If I run this, the result says Kolkata Knight Riders and Mumbai Indians are the best chasing team, which means they have won the maximum number of matches batting second. Now if you want to know the best defending team, that is the team that has won the maximum number of matches batting first, I'll just copy this line of code. Let me scroll down, I'll paste it here, and instead of result not equal to runs, this time I'm going to use result not equal to wickets. If I run this, it returns me the result Mumbai Indians, which means Mumbai Indians is the best defending team, that is the team that has won the maximum number of matches batting first. Now this one typical question that I want to answer now is, does winning the toss mean winning the match? To answer that, I'll create a variable called toss equal to, I'll write match underscore data, I use my column that is toss winner, then I'm going to compare it with equal to match underscore data, and then I'll see the winner. So here I'm choosing who won the toss and whether the same team was the winner. I'll create a plot here. I'll write plt.figure. I'm going to give a figure size. I'll write fig size, which is my attribute present inside the matplotlib function, and I'll give my figure size as 10,5. I'll use my count plot function present in the Seaborn library, and I am going to count the toss, and I'll display it using plt.show. Let's run this. Okay, we have a nice bar graph which says winning the toss doesn't necessarily mean winning the match. You can see we have a lot of false values here, which means after winning the toss the team did not win the match, but there are a lot of true values as well. Now I want to answer one more question, which is, does choosing batting or bowling first help in winning matches? So for that I'll create another bar plot. I'll write plt figure. I'll give my figure size equal to, let's say 12,4. Then I'll write sns dot count plot. I'll write match underscore data dot toss underscore decision, which is my column. Then I'll write match underscore data dot toss underscore winner equal to match underscore data dot winner. Then I'll just plot it or display it using plt.show. Let's run this. If I scroll down, you can visualize the result. We can say that choosing to field first for the toss winner helped in winning the match than batting first in IPL from 2008 to 2020. So there are higher chances if you choose to field first, you will win the match. Okay, now we will use our ball by ball data set to see how a player has performed throughout IPL. Now for all these visualizations that we have created and we have seen so far, we were using the match dataset, which had information about the matches played from 2008 to 2020. From now on, we are going to use our ball by ball dataset. So the first thing I want to do is we'll analyze a performance of a player throughout IPL. So I'm going to take one of the popular players in IPL, that is Suresh Raina. So I'm going to create a variable called player equal to, I'll use my DataFrame name, that is ball underscore data, and then within square brackets I'll write batsman equal to I'll give SK Raina because that is the name present in our dataset for Suresh Raina. Then I'll write DataFrame underscore Raina equal to ball underscore data. Within square brackets I'll write player. Then let me print the head of the data frame. I'll write df underscore Rana dot head. There is an issue here. Let me debug the issue. Instead of dot, this should be an underscore. Let's run it. Now the key here should be capital and not small. Let's run it again. There you go. If you see here, we have created a data frame only for the player name, that is Suresh Raina. You can see here SK Raina. Cool. Now moving ahead. Now in the current cell of code tells us how Suresh Raina has been dismissed throughout the IPL in all the seasons. So here I'm using the value counts for dismissal kind, and I'm going to use a pie chart. So let me run this. If you see here, okay, we have the dismissal kind and there is a nice pie chart. Now this pie chart tells us that Suresh Raina has been caught for 68.8% of the times, and then he has been bowled for 10% time. He has got run out 7.5% of the times, been caught and bowled for 5%, he has been stumped for 5%, and he has been given leg before wicket for 3.8% of the times. Alright, now moving ahead. In the next cell of code, we are trying to find the runs scored by Suresh Raina in 1s, 2s, 3s and in boundaries, that is 4s and 6s. So for that I am creating a user defined function called count, which will count the runs scored by Raina. I'll just run this so that you get an idea. Alright, if you see the results, Raina has scored the maximum number of runs by a boundary, which is 4. Then he has scored the second highest number of runs by taking singles. Then he has scored the third highest number of runs by hitting 6s, and has scored the least number of runs by running a triple. Okay. Now if you want to know the details of the match that had the biggest win in terms of run margin, let me show you. If you want to analyze the match that had the biggest win in terms of margin, so you can use match underscore data, and then within square brackets I'll write my variable name again, match underscore data. Again I'll give a square bracket. I'll say result underscore margin. I'll give a condition equal to match underscore data. Then I'll say result underscore margin. I'll use my function, that is maximum. If I run this, okay, so we have the details of that match. So this match was played in 2017 in the city Delhi. So I'm assuming this match was played at Firozshah Kotla, which is the home ground for Delhi Daredevils, which is currently known as Delhi Capitals. The player of the match was Simmons, who is from West Indies. You see here we have the venue, which is Firozshah Kotla. It was played between Delhi Daredevils and Mumbai Indians. The toss was won by Delhi Daredevils, but they lost the match, and the match was won by Mumbai Indians by runs, and the result margin was 146 runs, which is a huge number when it comes to T20 cricket. And you can see the season as 2017. Okay. Now let's find the players who have scored the maximum number of runs so far in IPL. To do that, I'll create a variable called runs equal to, I'll use my ball underscore data, and I'm going to use my group by function. So here I'm going to group the batsmen. So within single quotes I'll use my column which is batsman, and then I'm going to use the sum function over the column that is batsman runs. I'll write batsman underscore runs, and I'll give a dot and use my sum function, and I'll reset the index. Okay. Now in the next line I'll write runs dot columns, I'm going to create two new variables, which is batsman, and the second column would be runs. Next I'm going to give a variable called y, which is runs dot, I'm going to sort it. I'll write sort underscore values in terms of runs, so I'll write by my new column that is runs, comma, I'll give ascending equal to false, which means it will order my result in descending order. I'm going to find the top 10 batsmen in IPL who have scored the maximum number of runs. I'll write reset dot index, and then I'm going to drop my index, and I'll give axis equal to 1, which means I'm going to drop it in terms of columns. Let's print y. So what I'm doing here is, first I'm grouping all the batsmen, and then I'm going to find the total runs that they have scored, so I'm using the sum function. Then I'm creating two new variables or columns called batsmen and runs. I'm sorting the runs scored by the top 10 batsmen in terms of runs. Let's run this. Okay, let me check what is the error. It says column not found, batsman underscore run. This should be batsman underscore runs. Let's run it again. There you go. So we have Virat Kohli, there's Suresh Raina, David Warner, Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan, then we have Grayscale, De Villiers, Dhoni, Uthappa and Gambhir, who are the top 10 batsmen in IPL that have scored the highest number of runs. Okay. Now we will visualize the top 10 players who have scored the highest number of runs. So this is the code I have written already. Now you can use whichever palette you want. I have used face color as gray. Let's just run this and visualize the result. There you go. You have a nice bar plot, and on the top it says top 10 runs scorers in IPL. On the y-axis you have the total number of runs they have scored. On the x-axis you have the player names. So the first player who has scored the maximum number of runs is Virat Kohli. If you see the runs he has scored is close to 6,000 runs. Next we have is Suresh Raina. The second graph or the second bar is for Suresh Raina, followed by Warner, Sharma. We have MS Dhoni, Uthappa, Gambhir and other players. Cool. Now coming to our final visualization, where we'll see the players who have won the Man of the Match award maximum number of times. For that I'm using my column that is player of the match column. Let's run it. If I scroll down, you see here AB de Villiers from South Africa, who currently plays for RCB, has won the highest number of Man of the Match awards, which is actually more than 25, I believe. Next we have Chris Gale, Rohit Sharma, David Warner, you have Yusuf Pathan, Suresh Raina, Virat Kohli and Gautam Gambhir, who have won the highest number of Man of the Match awards. Okay, so let me go to the top and just give you a brief on what we did in this IPL data analysis demo. So first we imported our two datasets, match_data and our ball by ball dataset. Then we checked using the isNull function to see whether there are any null values present in any columns of the datasets. We used the shape function to display the shape of the dataset. We printed the total number of columns that are present in one of the datasets. We saw how you could extract the season or the year value from a date column. Then we printed the total number of matches played in each season. Then we converted that same result into a nice bar graph. Then we merged two columns from one of the datasets to another dataset, which was ball data. Then we saw the total number of runs in each season. We also saw the runs scored per match in different seasons. Now we visualized the number of tosses won by each season. We saw the toss decision across all the seasons, where we found out that most of the teams preferred to field first. Then if I scroll further, you saw how to answer different kinds of questions. Then we also learned how you can analyze a particular player and their performance throughout IPL. We saw for Suresh Raina and the dismissal kind. We also checked the pattern in which he has scored the runs. Finally, we found out the top 10 run scorers in IPL and saw who has won the highest number of Man of the Match awards. So if you want to get the source code files and the datasets we have used in this demo, then please put your email IDs in the comment section. We will share the files over email.
With that, we have come to the end of the session. That's all for today's video. I hope you guys have found it informative and helpful. If you have any further queries on any of the topics covered earlier, feel free to let us know in the comment section below and a team of experts will be more than happy to resolve all your queries. Stay tuned to the channel for more interesting content like this. Until next time, stay safe, thank you and keep coding.